Imagine this. You wake up one morning and realize you no longer recognize yourself. The face in the mirror is yours, but something behind the eyes has changed. The convictions you once held, compassion, justice, integrity, feel like relics of a past life. You catch yourself justifying cruelty, dismissing suffering, even enjoying the power that comes with indifference. A voice whispers, "This isn't you." But another replies, "Isn't it?" How did this happen? Not in a single moment, but in 1,000 silent compromises. A lie here, a betrayal there. The slow erosion of empathy, replaced by the cold calculus of us versus them. You told yourself you were doing what was necessary, what was right. But now, you stand on the precipice of becoming the very thing you once feared. How do good people turn into monsters? History is littered with the wreckage of those who crossed this line, ordinary men and women who committed atrocities, not out of madness, but out of conviction. The Nazi bureaucrat who signed death warrants, the revolutionary who tortured for the greater good, the corporate executive who traded lives for profit. None of them woke up one day and chose evil. They became it step by step, while believing they were still good. What if the line between hero and villain isn't as clear as we think? What if the most dangerous monsters are the ones who never realize they transformed? We like to believe evil is something other, a foreign force, a demonic possession, the domain of sociopaths and tyrants. But what if the truth is far more unsettling? What if the seeds of monstrosity live inside every one of us, waiting for the right conditions to take root? Consider this paradox. The road to hell isn't paved with evil intentions. It's paved with good ones. The inquisitors burned heretics to save their souls. The colonialists enslaved nations to civilize them. The true horror isn't that monsters walk among us. It's that they were once like us, and we could become like them. So here's the question that should haunt you. What would it take for you to cross that line? Is it loyalty to a cause? Fear of the outsider? The seductive promise of power? Or simply the slow, imperceptible drift of a soul adapting to darkness? This isn't just about history. It's about now. It's about the systems we uphold, the injustices we ignore, the small betrayals we rationalize every day. The transformation doesn't begin with a knife in your hand. It begins with a lie in your heart. And the most terrifying part? You might not even notice it happening. But what if there's a way to see the process before it's too late? You tell yourself you'd never cross that line. But what if the line isn't where you think it is? The descent into monstrosity doesn't begin with a sudden fall. It begins with a subtle tilt, a shift so slight you barely feel it. And the scariest part? The human mind is wired to justify it every step of the way. The lie we tell ourselves, "I am the hero." No tyrant wakes up and says, "Today, I will be evil." Instead, they whisper, "Today, I will do what must be done." Psychologist Philip Zimbardo's Stanford Prison Experiment revealed how quickly ordinary people adopt cruelty when given permission, when they believe their actions serve a noble purpose. The guards weren't sadists. They were students, neighbors, people like you, yet within days, they reveled in domination. Why? Because evil dresses itself in righteousness. Friedrich Nietzsche warned, "Whoever fights monsters should see to it that he does not become a monster." The moment you believe your cause is pure, your enemies become less than human. And once they're dehumanized, any atrocity can be rationalized. The slow rot of moral licensing. You donate to charity, then indulge in gossip. You condemn corruption, then cheat on taxes. Small compromises. You tell yourself, harmless. But moral licensing creeps in. The psychological loophole where one good act justifies a later transgression. I'm a good person, you think, so this one bad thing doesn't define me. Until it does. Carl Jung called this a shadow, the repressed darkness we refuse to acknowledge in ourselves. The more we deny it, the more it controls us. The seduction of tribalism. History's greatest horrors weren't committed by individuals. They were crowd crimes. The Holocaust, lynch mobs, genocides. Social identity theory explains why. Humans crave belonging, and once you're part of a tribe, its morality becomes your morality. Dissent feels like betrayal. Cruelty feels like duty. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, observed. An abnormal reaction to an abnormal situation is normal behavior. In broken systems, monstrosity isn't the exception, it's the norm. The ultimate deception, the banality of evil. Hannah Arendt, witnessing Nazi Adolf Eichmann's trial, expected a monster. Instead, she saw a bureaucrat, a man who never realized what he was doing. Evil doesn't always roar. Sometimes it clicks a pen, files a report, follows orders. The real danger isn't the devil. It's the desk job that turns you into him. But if the process is so invisible, how do we stop it? You don't become a monster by choice. You become one by habit. Every day, in ways too small to notice, the world reshapes you. Systems nudge. Cultures condition. Biases calcify. And before you realize it, you're standing on the other side of the line, wondering how the hell you got there. 1. The automation of cruelty. Modern evil isn't dramatic. It's bureaucratic. A loan officer denies mortgages to entire neighborhoods, not out of hatred, but policy. An algorithm flags high-risk faces for police scrutiny, not because it's racist, but because the data says so. A factory farm worker kills thousands of animals daily, not with malice, but efficiency. Moral distance is the killer. When you don't see the suffering, when your role is just one cog in a machine, cruelty becomes abstract. And abstraction is the perfect breeding ground for atrocity. 2. The myth of neutrality. I was just doing my job is the most dangerous sentence in history. Psychologists call this the agentic shift, the moment we surrender our moral agency to authority. Stanley Milgram's obedience experiments proved 65% of people will deliver lethal shocks if told by a lab-coated scientist. But here's the twist. They weren't forced. They chose to obey because disobedience felt wrong. When systems absolve us of responsibility, we commit horrors to feel like good people. 3. The slow poison of privilege. Monstrosity thrives on blindness. The CEO who never visits the factories where workers faint from heat exhaustion. The politician who votes against aid for refugees they'll never meet. The suburban family who benefits from redlining without knowing its history. Complicity isn't always action. It's an action disguised as normalcy. As James Baldwin warned, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. 4. The cult of convenience. Your phone, your clothes, your coffee. Every harmless indulgence is a thread in a web of suffering you never see. We know about sweatshops, about deforestation, about child labor. But knowledge without action isn't wisdom. It's complicity by consent. The 21st century's greatest evil? The luxury of not having to care. But here's the secret they don't tell you. The most dangerous lie isn't, I am evil. It's, I have no choice. Because the moment you believe that, the moment you surrender to machine, the system, the way things are, you've already lost. But history whispers another truth. Every system of oppression has been broken by those who refuse to accept the unacceptable. 1. The courage to see clearly. The first rebellion begins in the mirror. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust, discovered an astonishing truth even in Auschwitz. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose. This is where monsters are unmade. That split second when the policeman lowers his baton, the whistleblower hesitates before sending the email, the voter questions what they've always believed. Consciousness is resistance. The moment you see the machinery, you can no longer be its cog. 2. The radical power of small refusals. You don't need to storm the Bastille to start a revolution. During Nazi Germany, ordinary people saved lives by misplacing paperwork, forgetting to report neighbors, accidentally leaving doors unlocked. These weren't grand gestures. They were quiet sabotages of conscience. In your life, this looks like questioning the that's just how it's done at work, interrupting the racist joke instead of nervous laughter, choosing discomfort over convenient lies. As Holocaust rescuer Marion Pritchard proved, it's not the scale that matters. It's that you do something. 3. Rewriting the tribal script. Tribalism is the monster's favorite weapon, but you can turn it against itself. In Rwanda, Hutu killers stop mid-massacre when their Tutsi victims call them by name. Personal connection short-circuits dehumanization. This is why Daryl Davis, a black musician, befriended and de-radicalized KKK members. Former neo-Nazis now run exit programs for hate groups. Israeli and Palestinian peace activists share meals while their leaders scream war. The antidote to us versus them is always, inevitably, we. 4. The daily practice of moral courage. Resistance isn't one grand moment. It's a muscle. Journalist Maria Ressa survives constant death, threats by documenting every attack. When asked why she doesn't flee, she says, because someone has to hold the line. Your line might be calling out sexism in the group chat, boycotting convenient but cruel product, demanding ethical sourcing at your company. These seem small until you realize every atrocity in history was enabled by people who decided it wasn't their problem. The monsters want you to feel powerless. But power isn't taken, it's surrendered. And what surrendered can be reclaimed. So here's the secret they tried to bury. Here is the secret no system wants you to know. Monsters are not born. They are made, which means they can be unmade. Every atrocity in history, every act of cruelty, every moment of complicity, they all share the same fatal flaw. They require our participation. 1. The lie of separation. We imagine evil as something out there, in dictators, in criminals, in bad people. But the terrifying, liberating truth is, the line between good and evil runs through every human heart. Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who survived the Soviet gulags, wrote, if only it were all so simple. If only there were evil people somewhere committing evil deeds, and it were necessary only to separate them from the rest of us and destroy them. But the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. This is not a call to despair. It is a call to vigilance. If evil is a process, then goodness must be too, a daily choosing, a constant remembering. 2. The alchemy of attention. The most subversive act is to see clearly. When you notice the worker everyone ignores, question the policy no one reads, remember the history being erased, you perform alchemy. You transform apathy into responsibility. This is how ordinary people become extraordinary, not by superhuman virtue, but by stubborn humanity. 3. The paradox of power. True power does not come from dominating others. It comes from refusing to be dominated, even by your own worst instincts. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote reminders to himself. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. This is the ultimate rebellion, to live as if your choices matter, because they do. 4. The final realization. You will never be done. There will always be another excuse, another compromise, another reason to look away. The work of staying human is endless. But here's the miracle no one tells you. It is in this endless choosing that meaning is found. Viktor Frankl survived the camps by realizing everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. The last question. So now it comes to you, not as a test, not as a judgment, but as an invitation. What will you do with your power to choose? Will you be the voice that says, this is wrong, when everyone nods? Be the hand that helps when it costs you nothing, and when it costs everything. Be the one who remembers that monsters are not born, but made. And so are saints? The world is not shaped by fate. It is shaped by choices like yours. The story is not written. Pick up the pen.